welcome, Ryan here from Fiskal, and today I'm going to take you through users and roles, how to set them up, and the best practices for your business, and how to decide what permissions to, or how to set up these permissions as well. So what you'll see here is this is our sandbox or our demo environment. My face is at the top of the screen. We just need to be able to see the bottom left-hand screen of the bottom left-hand side of the screen for this video. But yeah, so you'll see here we have a lot of advisors. This is all the Fiskal, or some of the Fiskal employees, and we have a spoof email address here. One of my email addresses, my Gmail account, needed to be added as a user, standard user. So you'll see that we have two different types of accounts. On the far right here, we have invites a user. Now this is going to take up a seat in your subscription, and then there's invites an advisor who has to be a registered advisor with Cin7 Core. So we are obviously not going to take any of your seats. This is, we are advisors. So what you'll do when inviting us is just add a user. And like I said, they must be registered as a Cin7 Core partner. You'll use the email address, the invite will be sent, and we'll gain access that way. Otherwise, for an actual user, you will invite them as a standard user. You'll input their email address. They'll get an invite, they log in, they create an account if they don't already have one, answer a bunch of questions, two-factor authentication, and so on. So that's how that functions, right? When we look at the roles, you can see that we have two roles set up at the moment. And to add a role, you just go in, you type the role, so we can say accountant, for example, save that. And now inside this role, you'll be able to set up if they have full access to this specific task or function, or if they have read-only access. Now, you'll see that not all of them have read-only access, so it's either full access or no access. And then just to make this a little bit easier, we can minimize these as well. So, you know, if you don't want anybody to have access to this dashboard in the front for whatever reason, we can just leave this as unavailable, right? There's no access to any of that. Or if we want to give them just read access to the whole dashboard, read only access to the whole dashboard, that's where we'll set it up. Okay. And you can set all of these up per function as well, like I said. Right, okay, so that's how to create a rule. Then when we assign a user to a rule, we'll say, okay, cool, in the accountant, so it's minimized, we'll select accountant, we get given the accountant roles permissions on the right-hand side here, and we'll say add user. Now, you'll get a list of the current active users on your account. I will select Ryan, save that, and now Ryan is an accountant, right? So whatever access an accountant role has, Ryan now shares. So when we're looking at that, I want to also make note of how this affects a user. So you'll see here that the roles associated with Ryan is he is an accountant, a manager, and a reviewer. Okay, and when we go into Ryan, you'll see here that the roles active on the left-hand side is, like I said, accountant, manager, and reviewer. And you'll see on the dashboard or in the matrix here, or the columns here, that they have specific access per role. And then on the second to last right side, we'll have effective permission. So this is where we will set up our user-specific settings. And then at the very end, we'll have effective permission. So just to give you a bit of insights into how this works. So we can view inside a user, we can view the roles that a manager possess, right? There's nothing we can do from here. What we need to do is when we go to the manager role, I just want to show you how this works. So let's take away fulfillment and save that. Now let's go back to the user. Let's go back out of there, back to the user. Let's go down to fulfillment. and you'll see here that, cool, the accountant role for Ryan has no access. The manager role for Ryan has no access, but the reviewer role for Ryan has read-only access. Therefore, Ryan has read-only access. And you'll see that that what happens here is it defaults to the highest level of access that a user has access to a role of. So when we have no access as an accountant, but we have full access as a manager and read-only access as a reviewer, it defaults to the highest level of access. So it goes to full access. Now the last portion of this is that effective access. So if I then say here that I want Ryan, specifically Ryan, no other users, to have full access, we change it to full access, we save it, and we should see that changes. So let's go to fulfillment, and you can now see that Ryan has full access. So when we're managing a user, there's sort of 2 to 3 tiers, if you will, of how to manage a user's permissions. And yeah, so typically what we see is a user only gets one role, but if they function as a purchaser and they run a little bit of finance, then they'll get those 2 roles, for example, right? If we have a large enough team where that is required and there is a distinction between those 2 roles and we want to give them both those permissions. But what we see most often works best is if we just make it one role. So Ryan is a manager. Okay. So we take away Ryan's accountant and reviewer permissions. Obviously they were less than the manager, so it's not going to affect him. And if we go back down to fulfillment, you can see again the no access of manager has been overwritten by Ryan's user specific permissions. So if we say NA, it defaults to whatever the highest level of role permission is granted to that user. Okay. Right, so I think the next portion of this is basically like your best practices, and what we see working quite often is, like I said, a structured role-specific permissions, and we don't really like to get into this effective permission stuff per user. It can get a little bit messy. So, I mean, of course, it's there for you to use, but what we see working most effectively is that we set up predefined roles that allow a particular type of user certain access that is set up for that role. So this would be something like a warehouse manager or warehouse staff, your sales rep roles, your accountant roles, and your production management or that sort of your production team roles. And when we're looking at those, sort of stripping away, I mean, depending on the level of data that you want visible and accessible to your users, but stripping away as much permissions as possible that doesn't hinder their ability to function usually works pretty well. And then if we see that there's certain permissions that they do need, then we can just activate that on a per need or as needed basis. And again, adjusting the role, not necessarily the effective user or the effective permission, because chances are if a sales rep doesn't have access to one thing, all of the sales reps need that access to that thing, and so we may as well just update the role, and then it goes across all of the sales reps that are assigned that role. And this, takes a bit of management and a little bit of back and forth, but at the end, after a fair amount of governance and tweaking, you get to the perfect place where those roles are set up perfectly for the users that are performing those roles. And then one or two nuances when we're looking at things like the apps that are available with Cin7, like your POS, your WMS, your MES, that sort of those three. In order for users to use those like a WMS, they obviously need to have fulfillment or pick or pack or receive or anything like that in order to do those functions within the WMS. If they don't have those functions in the standard in your desktop, then they won't be able to do anything in the WMS app. And like I said, starting off with little access and then growing that access out is a pretty good approach to setting up these roles. And I hope that helps you set up your users' roles, effective permissions if you need them. Kind of advising against it, but if it's needed, go for it.